Kunon can see, but what he sees is not what anyone expected. When he looks at people through his newly created glass eye, he does not see faces or features the way ordinary sight works. Instead, he perceives something else entirely. People appear as shapes, as entities of light and form that do not correspond to physical reality. One person looks like a massive creature. Another appears as something else entirely. And his master, Zionli Finral, is so blindingly radiant that Kunon cannot even look directly at him. Among humans, Zionli tells him he is the brightest in the world. Obviously not as bright as the sun, he adds, and Kunon cannot help but agree. This unexpected form of vision creates a mystery that becomes the episode's intellectual backbone. What is Kunon actually seeing? Zionli considers two possibilities. The first is that Kunon is perceiving the shapes of souls, some kind of spiritual dimension visible only through magically constructed eyes. The second is that the concentration of magical power in his surroundings is causing a form of magic sickness, producing visual hallucinations. Neither can be confirmed without more data. Zionli advises Kunon to keep seeing, to collect observations, and to look for patterns rather than jumping to conclusions. If the visions become genuinely distressing, they can be sealed. But if they carry meaning, abandoning them too early would be a loss. This conversation reveals the depth of the master-student relationship. Zionli does not panic. He does not dismiss Kunon's concerns. He approaches the unknown with the same methodical curiosity he brings to earth magic. Your eyes are your masterpiece, he tells Kunon. They are not a failure just because they work differently than expected. There are creatures in nature that see colors differently, creatures with dozens of eyes, creatures with no sight at all. No one gets to define what the right way to see is. Kunon's vision is his own, and it may be telling him something important. Coming from a man who rarely gives praise, this reassurance carries enormous weight. Kunon visibly brightens and doubles down on his commitment to understanding what his glass eye reveals. Zionli also warns Kunon to keep quiet about the unusual nature of his sight until he understands what is happening. There may be people who find it strange, and in a world where sorcerers are already treated with suspicion and reverence in equal measure, drawing unnecessary attention to unexplained abilities could create problems. It is practical advice delivered with care, and Kunon accepts it without argument. Meanwhile, the episode shifts to preparations for departure. Kunon's 12th birthday arrives, and his family gathers to celebrate. His father gives him a sturdy bag built for travel. His mother gives him study materials. His brother presents him with a map of good restaurants along the route to the magic school, a practical gift wrapped in the knowledge that the journey will be long and lonely. It is a warm, grounded scene that reminds us that beneath all the magical prodigy drama, Kunon is still a child leaving home for the first time. His mother tries not to cry. His brother reassures her that Kunon will be fine. His father watches with the quiet pride of someone who knows his son is about to outgrow everything the family can offer. Princess Mirika gives Kunon a matching pair of bracelets. One for him, one for her. She tells him that when things get tough at the magic school, he should speak to the bracelet as if he is speaking to her, and she will do the same. It is a gesture that carries more emotional weight than either of them says aloud. Kunon responds with characteristic warmth, telling her that a matching bracelet with her outshines any royal crown. The moment is sincere without being excessive, and it establishes a thread of connection that will persist across the distance ahead. The farewell scenes that follow are deliberately understated. Kunon does not deliver a grand speech. He says goodbye with the same casual directness that defines everything he does. See you in a few years, he tells his family. He promises to come back. His mother tells him not to catch a cold. His father tells him to take care. And then Kunon is gone, riding away from the only home he has ever known, toward a magic school in a distant nation called Durashik. The final moments of the episode introduce a new element. Someone else is also departing for the magic school. a figure identified only as Saint Reyes, a character who belongs to a place called the Holy Kingdom. The brief scene establishes that the Durishik School of Magic draws students from across the world, and that among the incoming class will be individuals whose abilities and backgrounds may rival or even exceed what Kunon has built. The stage is being set for the next act, a new environment, new competitors, and challenges that will test everything Kunon has learned. The boy with the glass eye rides toward the horizon, leaving behind the people who raised him, the master who forged him, and the princess who waits for his return. Everything ahead is unknown. And for Kunon Gurion, that is exactly how he likes it. The road to Durishik is long. 5 days out from the manor, and Kunon and his maid Aiko are still within the borders of the Kingdom of Hulia. At this pace, the journey will take about a month. The distance is staggering, and the reality of it settles over Kunon in a way that all the preparation could not prepare him for. He is 12 years old, he is leaving everything familiar behind, and the only constant companion on this journey is the woman who has taken care of him since he was a child. And then Aiko tells him this is where they say goodbye. She wants to get married. She has found someone, and she is at the age where waiting much longer means giving up on the idea entirely. Her fiancé is waiting for her, and the opportunity will not wait forever. The announcement hits Kunon like cold water. He has already lost Miss Genier and Lady Fleur. Now Aiko, the person he has depended on for daily life, for meals, for grounding, for all the practical realities his magic-obsessed mind ignores, is leaving too. He tells her plainly that he does not think he can live without her. The sincerity cuts through his usual bravado. But Aiko has made her choice, and Kunon, for all his reluctance, respects it. The journey brings them to Kunon's grandfather, the Lord Regent of the family's main branch. The old man is overjoyed to see his grandson and immediately tries to spoil him with extravagant gifts. Kunon's mother, anticipating this, has sent a letter ahead capping the gift spending at 500,000 NECA. The grandfather's dismay at this restriction provides a moment of levity in what is otherwise an emotionally heavy episode. He tries to negotiate around the limit, and Kunon redirects his generosity towards something practical, arranging for a new maid to replace Aika. Enter Rinko Round. 18 years old, energetic, direct, and refreshingly honest about her motivations. She applied for the job because the pay is decent, and she needs money to open a restaurant with her fiancé. She is Aiko's younger sister, recommended by Aiko herself, and from the first exchange it is clear that she shares her sister's sharp tongue and natural compatibility with Kunon's unusual personality. When Kunon compliments the bacon she prepares and says the warmth and love of the two sisters makes even him feel smoky and aromatic, Rinko does not miss a beat. The transition from Aiko to Rinko is not seamless, but it is warm and Kunon adapts quickly. The farewell between Kunon and Aiko is the emotional peak of the episode. On the morning of his departure from his grandfather's manor, Kunon asks Aiko if she remembers what he said after his previous caretakers left. He told her he would never be fine if she left. And now he acknowledges that he is separating from everyone he loves, his parents, his brother, the royal sorcerers, his master Mirika, and now Aiko. But he chose this path himself. They are apart but not gone. He will see her again. Aiko tells him she will continue working as a maid in Hulia after her marriage, and that by the time he returns she may have a child. An adorable child like him, she says. The moment is quiet and deeply felt. Kunon thanks her for everything, and then the carriage pulls away. The episode shifts gear as Kunon and Rinko enter the town outside Durishik. The magic capital's surrounding area is denser with magical commerce than anything Kunon has encountered. Stores sell magical tools, grimoires, and exotic materials at prices that make Rinko's eyes bulge. A single book on magic costs 5 million NECA, which Rinko calculates is enough to fund her dream restaurant, a branch store, and early retirement. Kunon, characteristically, declines to buy his own master's grimoire from a second-hand dealer because he already knows the contents and probably made the clean copy himself. But it is not all lighthearted. The shopkeeper in the town recognizes Kunon as a sorcerer and asks him to demonstrate his magic. Kunon creates a small water figure, a little creature so delicately formed that the shopkeeper is enchanted. And then someone else notices. A figure connected to the Holy Kingdom inspects the water creation and realizes that the texture and fragility suggest something beyond ordinary water magic. Word is beginning to spread even before Kunon walks through the gates of Durashik that something unusual is arriving. The episode closes with two parallel scenes. Kunon and Rinko arrive at the magic school, only to discover that the dormitory application deadline has passed and there is no room. Xianli, it turns out, neglected to mention this critical detail. Kunon takes it in stride and decides to rent a house nearby, turning the setback into an opportunity for independence. Meanwhile, at the school itself, Professor Soph reviews the incoming student list and notes one name in particular. He is apparently a student of Xianli Finrol. The professor pauses. "That man took a student," he murmurs. The name Kunon Gurian is now on the radar of the Durashik School of Magic. A new chapter begins. The noble estate is behind him. The magic school lies ahead. And Kunon Gurian walks into it with a new maid, a glass eye no one knows about, and the ambition of a boy who has already done the impossible once. Kunon Gurian walks through the gates of the Durashik School of Magic, and for the first time, Rinko cannot follow. Only students and authorized personnel are allowed inside during the entrance examination. Rinko protests, tries to bribe the guard, and gets turned down flat. Kunon reassures her and steps forward alone. The guard, noticing his blindness, offers to help him navigate. Kunon thanks her with characteristic warmth, calling her kind despite her strict appearance. The guard pauses, caught off guard by the compliment. Inside the school grounds, the entrance exam for the advanced class begins. The advanced class is not a default placement. It is reserved for students who demonstrate exceptional ability, and the test is designed to be deliberately unfair. Professor Soph, a wind sorcerer with decades of experience, administers the practical examination. His assignment is simple in description and brutal in execution: hit him with your magic. Soph activates Furuguru, an intermediate wind spell that creates a rotating wall of air around the caster. The whirlpool of magical power is dense enough to shred most incoming spells. Water in particular would be repelled easily. Touch it carelessly, Soph warns, and you will be torn apart. Kunon's reaction is not fear. It is disappointment. He expected something harder. Soph bristles at the confidence, but tells Kunon to prove himself rather than talk. Kunon casts Aori and produces an enormous quantity of water droplets, far more than a standard elementary spell should yield. Soph notes the volume but dismisses the threat. Aori cannot break through Furuguru. Then Kunon says a single word: multiply. The droplets split. He says it again. They split again. And again. And again. Each repetition doubles the number of tiny water particles in the air until the entire examination ground is saturated with a fine red mist. Kunon has colored the water not for any tactical purpose, but to make it visible so there is no question about what is happening. The mist does not attack. It surrounds. It fills every gap in Soph's rotating wind wall. And then Kunon explains calmly that he can maintain this indefinitely. Aori is an elementary spell. The magical power cost is negligible. He can keep the mist active for 2 full days without strain. Furuguru, on the other hand, is an intermediate spell. It devours magical power. How long can Soph sustain it? Half a day. Less. The assignment was to hit the professor. There was no time limit. Kunon has turned a combat test into a war of attrition, and he holds every advantage. Soph stares. Then he surrenders. Very well, he says. You win. The words carry more weight than a simple concession. Soph is a veteran sorcerer. He has tested hundreds of students. And this 12-year-old with 2 elementary spells just outmaneuvered him by exploiting the fundamental efficiency gap between spell tiers. When Soph thinks about it afterward, the realization is worse. Kunon had a backup plan. If there had been a time limit, Kunon was prepared to erode the wind wall from within, using the moisture to interfere with Soph's magical power and seize control of the wind itself. Elementary magic used with a strategist's mind. Xian has sent me a child with frightening potential, Soph admits to himself. After the practical test comes the individual interview. This is where things get strained. Professor Seifi leads Kunon to a door that opens into what she describes as night. Beyond it, there is no light, no magical energy Kunon can detect, and no visual information from his glass eye. For the first time since creating his magical sight, Kunon is truly blind again. The sensation hits him harder than he expected. He describes it as almost nostalgic. The ground is earth. Wind touches his face. The smell of grass and soil tells him he is outdoors. Above him, stars he cannot see. Then voices appear. 7 of them. They surround him without warning, without footsteps, without any detectable approach. These are the senior faculty of Durashik, the people who will decide his placement. One of them speaks directly. So you are Xianli's student. The voice is old, powerful, and carries authority that fills the dark space. This is Grey Ruva, the headmaster of the school, a figure whose magical level makes even Xianli seem young by comparison. Ruva tells Kunon that Xianli was a prodigy worthy of her acknowledgement. The question hanging in the darkness is whether Kunon can carry that legacy. Kunon, true to form, immediately asks the senior faculty members not to get too close. He has a fiancée, he explains, and he should not get too close to other ladies. The silence that follows is deafening. One of the interviewers asks if he did not just spend the entire practical exam flirting with Professor Soph's student. Kunon clarifies that he only wanted to discuss magic, preferably alone with an attractive sorcerer. The interview panel collectively processes the fact that Xianli's prodigy student is also an incorrigible flirt. Despite the unconventional first impression, Ruva is satisfied. She tells Kunon he will be placed in the advanced class. Build your track record, she advises. Study hard. The interview is over, and Kunon races out of the darkness and back into the light of his glass eye, eager to go home and experiment with everything he learned during the exam. The episode closes with Kunon explaining to Soph what his backup plan had been. Erosion, fusion, and gaining control. Water can penetrate most materials. It can infiltrate an active spell, merge with the magical power sustaining it, and ultimately override the caster's control. Soph listens with the quiet horror of a teacher who realizes his student understood the assignment better than he did. Kunon adds one last thought. He believes water is the best attribute. He cannot yet claim it is the strongest because he has not surpassed his master. But that is exactly why he is here at Durashik. To learn what he needs to finally stand above Xianli Finral. The advanced class has a new student, and the school has no idea what it is about to deal with. Money is a problem. Kunon Gurian has entered the advanced class at the Durashik School of Magic, and the advanced class operates on a principle that makes his noble upbringing largely irrelevant. You pay for what you use. Every material, every ingredient, every piece of equipment consumed in magical experiments comes out of the student's own pocket. The school provides the space, the instruction, and the opportunity. The student provides the funding. And for experiments at the level Kunon wants to operate, the costs are staggering. Kunon's classmates feel the pressure immediately. Hank Beat, a fire sorcerer from a modest barony in the countryside, arrived at Durashik after scraping together tuition money from a father who sacrificed everything to send him. Ria Hose, a wind sorcerer, faces the same financial strain. Even Ray's Saint Lance, the saint from the Holy Kingdom whose purification magic is among the most powerful at the school, cannot translate her abilities into income on her own. Healing magic, which is the obvious moneymaker for a light attribute sorcerer, is not within Ray's skill set. The advanced class is filled with talented sorcerers who cannot afford to be talented. Kunon does not panic. He strategizes. During a casual conversation, he learns that Rays can use purification magic. This is the key. Purification magic has commercial applications, but Rays has never thought to explore them. Kunon has. He proposes a partnership. They will create and sell magic tools together. Specifically, Kunon wants to combine Rays' purification power with his own water magic to grow a sacred herb called Shishilla. Shishilla is extraordinarily rare and valuable because it can only grow on holy land, ground imbued with purification energy. No one has ever cultivated it artificially. But Kunon has done the research. He knows that Rays' personal spell, Sanctum, creates a holy barrier that reproduces the conditions of holy land. If they can simulate the environment, the seeds should sprout. The experiment requires an investment. Shishilla seeds cost 200,000 NECA each. 5 seeds total 1 million NECA, which is the entirety of the money Kunon brought to school. If the experiment fails, he is bankrupt. If it succeeds, the payoff is enormous. Rays is uncomfortable with the risk but agrees when Kunon makes it clear that the money is his problem, not hers. The credit and the profit will go to her. He just wants to write the report. Professor Surya, a light attribute professor, oversees the experiment with barely contained excitement. She provides the seeds and watches as Rays activates Sanctum, creating a shimmering barrier of purification energy around the planting area. Kunon waters the ground with carefully prepared water. And then everyone waits. The tension is genuine. This is not a classroom exercise. This is a million NECA riding on an untested theory. The seeds sprout. Shishilla breaks through the soil inside the Sanctum barrier. Surya nearly collapses with joy, frantically documenting everything she sees. The sacred herb, considered impossible to cultivate outside of naturally occurring holy land, is growing under artificial conditions created by a first-year student and a saint working together. The implications are enormous. If the process can be replicated, it means a reliable supply of one of the rarest medicinal resources in the world. The resulting pills, processed from the flowers by Rays under Shurya's supervision, are valued at 1.5 million NECA. Possibly 2 million. The experiment has paid for itself many times over. But Kunon does not stop at Shishilla. He has been quietly building another income stream. His water bed, the one he originally created for Xionli during training, has found a market among the school's professors. The water bed eliminates fatigue, promotes restful sleep, and leaves the user feeling physically rejuvenated. Shurya is already a regular customer. Other faculty members have started lining up. Kunon calls it the Sleep Sanctuary. He charges for each session and is steadily building a reputation as the student who provides the best sleep anyone at Durashik has ever experienced. The financial pressure also pushes Kunon to help his classmates find their own paths. He assigns Hank the challenge of making bacon that Kunon can eat. This sounds absurd, but the constraint forces Hank to innovate. Kunon cannot eat most fire-cooked food because his body, tuned to water magic, rejects it. Hank must find a way to use fire magic that produces food compatible with a water sorcerer's constitution. It is a bizarre challenge, but it is exactly the kind of creative problem-solving that the advanced class was designed to encourage. For Rhea, Kunon has a different assignment. He wants Rhea to fly. Wind magic has the theoretical capacity for flight, but no student at Durashik has achieved sustained human flight. Kunon creates a waterbed platform beneath Rhea as a safety net and tells him to figure it out. The logic is pure Kunon. If the wind sorcerer can fly long distances, he can start a courier service and generate income. Rhea, who has been struggling with the financial burden of school, sees the potential immediately. The episode closes with a brief but telling scene. Multiple faction representatives at the school are watching Kunon's activities with increasing interest. The advanced class has 3 factions: ability, harmony, and rationality. Each faction wants Kunon. His magical talent, his business instincts, and his ability to inspire creative breakthroughs in other students have made him the most sought-after recruit in this year's incoming class. The factions are gathering intelligence, preparing their approaches, and competing for the right to recruit him first. Kunon, blissfully unaware of the political machinery turning around him, is eating bacon and writing research reports. The water sorcerer from the countryside has become the most valuable student at Durashik, and the factions are about to learn that recruiting him will not go according to anyone's plan. The advanced class at Durashik is humming with activity, and at the center of it, as always, is Kunon Gurion. His classmates are making breakthroughs. Rhea Hose has progressed from tentative floating to sustained hovering, and today Kunon wants him to try actual movement. The waterbed safety net is already in place below, because Kunon is an optimist but not an idiot. Rhea activates Fura, his wind spell, and lifts off the ground. The first attempt at directional flight is shaky. He wobbles, overcorrects, and crashes. Kunon watches through his glass eye, tracking the patterns of Rhea's magical power, and offers advice immediately. You lose balance because you are trying to forcibly control the wind. Try going along with it, like you are following it instead of commanding it. Rhea absorbs the advice, tries again, and this time manages a short, controlled glide. The breakthrough is small but significant. Flight is no longer theoretical. Meanwhile, Hankbeat is wrestling with fire and bacon. The challenge Kunon set for him, creating smoked meat that a water sorcerer can eat without nausea, has pushed Hank to rethink everything he knows about fire magic. He has been burning the meat, undercooking it, and producing results so mediocre that Kunon calls them boring failures. But today Kunon pushes him in a different direction. You were an assistant to a professor for a long time, Kunon tells him. You learned the basics and gained knowledge. So why are you not trying anything crafty? You are not an assistant anymore. You can let yourself be free. Fire can have smell. Fire can have different colors. Why not flavor? The words hit Hank like a revelation. He has been so locked into the structured thinking of his assistant years that he forgot what experimentation actually means. Magic is free, he realizes. If he can add colors to fire and he can add smells, then why not flavors? He begins experimenting with aromatic herb properties infused into the fire itself, creating a flame that smokes and seasons simultaneously. The result is bacon with genuine aroma and taste, meat that does not trigger Kunon's water-attuned body to reject it as a foreign substance. Kunon takes a bite. It is actually not bad. At this quality, he tells Hank, I am happy to purchase them from you. The words are casual, but the meaning is enormous. Hank has just created a product with market value, using magic no one has attempted before. His financial problems are not solved, but the path forward is visible for the first time. Kunon's mentoring role is becoming central to the episode's narrative. He is not just excelling at his own magic. He is unlocking the potential of everyone around him. When a professor collapses from overwork during a research session, Kunon immediately offers his sleep sanctuary creature, the relaxation water bed that has become famous among the faculty. He recalls his first teacher, Lady Flora, who taught him that creativity was a form of talent. She was the one who told him never to dismiss his innovations as little tricks. That lesson, planted years ago in a manor far from Durashik, is now bearing fruit in the way Kunon approaches every problem and every person around him. But success attracts attention, and the factions have decided the waiting period is over. Three rival factions within the advanced class, ability, harmony, and rationality, each send representatives to recruit Kunon. They have been watching him for weeks, gathering intelligence on his magic, his personality, and his weaknesses. The ability faction notes that Kunon completed the school's standard assignments in just a few tries, a pace that suggests his skills are perfectly suited to their talent-focused approach. The Harmony faction observes his capacity for teamwork, his willingness to advise classmates, and his collaborative nature with Reyes and Hank. And the Rationality faction argues that his hero's scar status, combined with his apprenticeship under Zionli, makes him a natural fit for their analytical, prestige-oriented structure. The factions agree to approach Kunon in order, ability first, then harmony, then rationality. It is a diplomatic arrangement designed to prevent open conflict. What they do not account for is Kunon's fundamental inability to say no to anyone who asks nicely. The episode does not show the recruitment itself. Instead, it ends with the faction representatives sending their most persuasive members to make their pitches, and the audience already knows how this is going to go. Kunon is going to say yes to all of them. Rhea reports that he was invited to join Rationality, drawn by the practical advice of an upperclassman who helped him improve his flying technique. Hank was invited to Harmony. Both classmates have found their factions. But Kunon has not been approached yet, and the reason is clear. The three factions are fighting over who gets to recruit him first. The right of first negotiation belongs to ability. Harmony goes second. Rationality goes third. And the biggest boy magnet of each faction is being deployed to seal the deal. Kunon, oblivious to the political maneuvering happening in his name, is writing reports, eating bacon, and planning his next experiment. The factions are about to discover that recruiting Kunon Gurion is not a negotiation. It is an avalanche. The advanced class is about to be disrupted, and the boy at the center of it has no idea he is the cause. Kunon Gurion writes a letter to his fiancée, Princess Mirika. It opens with the words "My dear fiancé," and from the first line it is clear that this is not empty formality. He tells her about magic experiments, bacon making, and a new classmate he describes as a friend. He tells her that people at school often say his idea of a gentleman is wrong. He asks her what she thinks. The letter is sincere, playful, and completely Kunon. Somewhere far away, Mirika reads it and finds herself caught between laughter and something deeper. Back at Durashik, the faction recruitment unfolds exactly as anyone who knows Kunon could have predicted. The ability faction sends their representative first, a student named Elia Hessen. Elia approaches him in the corridor, introduces herself, and asks him to join ability. Kunon's internal reaction is immediate admiration. He tells her, without an ounce of self-consciousness, that he is more interested in her than in the faction, and asks whether that would be an impure reason to join. Elia, flustered but successful, reports back to her faction that Kunon accepted. The Harmony faction sends Elva Daglate next. Elva's approach is different, but the result is the same. Kunon calls her a princess of the moonlight and tells her everything shall be as she wishes. He agrees to join Harmony without hesitation. Rhea, who is flying overhead during this exchange, nearly crashes when he hears Kunon accept a second faction. That is two-timing, he protests. Kunon does not see the problem. Then the Rationality faction sends Cassis. Unlike the previous two recruiters, Cassis is male, loud, and abrasive. Kunon's response is instant and devastating. He asks Rhea why they should finish up, implying he is completely uninterested in speaking with Cassis. The shift in treatment between the female and male recruiter is so abrupt that Cassis is left stammering. But the underlying dynamic forces a confrontation. Cassis demands to know why Kunon will not join Rationality when he joined the other two. Kunon's reasoning, absurd as it is, follows its own internal logic. A gentleman does not refuse a request from someone who asks earnestly, and among the three recruiters he found the Rationality representative the least compelling, though not for magical reasons. The situation escalates. Word spreads through the school that Kunon has agreed to join all three factions. This is not just unusual. It is unprecedented. The three factions have a history of conflict, and while the current generation has settled into a friendly rivalry, the idea of one student belonging to all three crosses every unwritten rule. The faction representatives, Baal of Ability, Lulamet of Rationality, and Shilto of Harmony, convene to confirm the rumor. They determine the order of recruitment was followed correctly. Ability approached first and succeeded. Harmony approached second and succeeded. Rationality approached third and also succeeded. The problem is not that any faction failed. The problem is that Kunon said yes to everyone. Kunon is summoned before the three faction representatives. Sandra, the fiery student from Rationality, finds him first and drags him to the meeting, barely containing her fury. Kunon's behavior during the summoning is breathtaking in its obliviousness. He eats a bacon sandwich that Hank made that morning, offers to share with the faction escorts, and compliments Sandra's passion with a nickname she does not appreciate. When he meets Baal, Lulamet, and Shilto for the first time, he shakes each hand, introduces himself politely, and treats the meeting like a social gathering rather than the crisis intervention it actually is. Meanwhile, Princess Mirika's subplot advances. She receives Kunon's letter and reads it in her chambers. The contents make her laugh and worry in equal measure. He has made a female friend. Nothing to worry about, she tells herself, then immediately worries. The letter also mentions his bacon experiments, his research reports, and his daily life at the school. But the postscript, which the audience will not see until the next episode, is what sticks. He mentions making dozens of female friends and encountering a mysterious individual with the heart of a maiden. Mirika's reaction is a mixture of pride in Kunon's social success and quiet alarm at the scale of it. Back at the school, the faction representatives begin their interrogation. Baal, measured and authoritative, asks Kunon directly which faction he intends to choose. Kunon responds with the kind of answer that only he could deliver. He has been recruited by many wonderful people, and it would be impossible to choose just one. Therefore, he intends to join all three factions. The silence that follows his declaration fills the room like water. Baal, Lulamet, and Shilto exchange looks. Sandra looks like she wants to throw something. Cassis looks confused. And the rest of the faction members present are trying to determine if this is a joke, a strategy, or genuine delusion. It is none of those things. It is Kunon being Kunon. He does not see factions as competing entities. He sees people he wants to work with, learn from, and spend time with. The idea of choosing one group and excluding the others is fundamentally incompatible with how his mind works. He does not want to limit himself. He wants to experience everything. The episode ends without resolution. The faction leadership has heard Kunon's declaration and must now decide how to respond. The options are limited. They can reject him outright, which would waste the most promising talent in their year. They can accept his unprecedented request, which would upend decades of tradition. Or they can test him, forcing him to prove that he is worth the disruption he is causing. The choice and its consequences will define the final episode. Kunon has turned the entire faction system upside down, and he did it with a smile, a compliment, and a bacon sandwich. The three factions have made their decision. If Kunon wants to join all three, he must prove he is worth it. A magic battle is organized. Kunon will face representatives from Ability, Harmony, and Rationality simultaneously. Not one at a time. Not in sequence. All at once. The entire school buzzes with the news. A first-year student taking on the top sorcerers from three factions in a single combat exercise. The student is also blind, also the apprentice of Zionli Finral, and also, according to every rumor circulating through the hallways, completely out of his mind. Kunon does not look worried. He meets Professor Saifi before the match and asks her if they can get parfait at a cafe if he wins. She tells him not to hit on his professor. He notices her carrying something and asks about it. She shows him a charm made of magic silver. He calls it beautiful. It is a small moment, but it captures Kunon's essence perfectly. Even standing at the edge of a confrontation that could define his entire school career, he is paying attention to the people around him, noticing details, collecting impressions. The arena is set with a quasi-barrier, a magic circle designed to protect against attack spells. The match ends when either the magic circle is broken or someone yields. 4 opponents face Kunon, Sandra from Rationality, the representatives from Harmony and Ability, and a 4th. Sandra is especially dangerous. She is known for bold, powerful attacks with poor control. If she lets loose, collateral damage is a certainty. Kunon's friends watch from the sidelines. Ria notes that he somehow cannot imagine Kunon losing. Hank agrees. Something about the way Kunon approaches challenges makes defeat feel impossible, even when the odds are stacked against him. The battle begins. Kunon casts Aori. Just Aori. The same elementary water spell he has used since childhood. His opponents watch warily. They know his track record. They know he beat Professor Soft with this exact spell. The multiplied water droplets fill the air, and then Kunon adds color. The red mist returns. The crowd recognizes it as the same technique he used during the entrance exam. But this time something is different. The mist does not just obscure vision. It clings. It sticks to clothing and skin. Sandra, the most aggressive of the 4, tries to attack through it but finds her clothes soaked with a substance that feels wrong. It is not just water. Kunon has altered the properties of Aori to create a sticky, slime-like rain. The mist particles have become adhesive. They coat everything, and as they accumulate, they turn from an inconvenience into a weapon. The slime gets in mouths. It makes chanting impossible. It seals airways. Breathing becomes difficult. Casting spells requires verbal activation, and you cannot activate what you cannot speak. Sandra yields first. The slime has overwhelmed her ability to fight. The remaining opponents fall in rapid succession. When the last of them concedes, the arena falls silent. It is over. Kunon won. And he won using a spell so basic that most first-year students learn it in their opening weeks of school. The crowd erupts into confusion. Why did the magic circle not stop him? The quasi-barrier is designed to block attack spells. Kunon's answer is elegant in its simplicity. He did not use an attack spell. He used Aori, an elementary water creation spell. The magical power involved was so minimal that the barrier did not register it as a threat. It let the water through like it would let ordinary rain pass. The rain just happened to be sticky, colored, and suffocating. The barrier did its job perfectly. Kunon simply operated outside the parameters it was designed to detect. How did he know this would work? Because he practiced it. With Xianli. His master used the same quasi-barrier during their training sessions, and Kunon learned its properties through repetition. He only won the first time, he admits. After the second battle, Xianli figured out the trick and started hitting him preemptively. Every subsequent rematch ended in Kunon's loss. So if his opponents wait and observe, they lose. If they fight again with knowledge of his technique, they can win. No one can beat you in the first battle, one of the faction leaders summarizes. Kunon agrees. After the match, Kunon tends to his opponents with the same care he tends to everything. He uses Aori to create warm water and offers it to the drenched fighters. Think of this as the warmth of my heart, he tells them. Sandra tells him to get lost. He offers warm water to another opponent who gives him a curious look but says nothing. The gesture is pure Kunon, win decisively, then immediately switch to kindness. The factions accept his joint membership. Bale, Lulamet, and Shilto agree that 3 self-nominated joint memberships is truly unprecedented. They call him the first troublemaker since Xianli Finral. Grey Ruva, the school's headmaster, watches from her office. She reviews the report and smiles. I highly welcome it, she says. The precedent is set. The episode shifts to its emotional finale. Mirka finishes reading Kunon's letter. She traces the closing words, "Your Kunon Gurion with eternal love." The postscript makes her laugh and panic simultaneously. He has made a few dozen more female friends at school. He has encountered a mysterious individual with the heart of a maiden. He intends to learn about more people and become a gentleman worthy of his princess. Mirka responds aloud even though Kunon cannot hear her. She tells him she is fine, that she has grown so strong that even a bear cannot scare her, and that when he comes back he will be surprised. "How could I forget about you?" she says. "I am always thinking about you too." Mirka takes her own exam. She enters the knighthood department at the senior school for nobles. Her older brother, Prince Lyle, watches from the stands as she fights and wins her match with the decisive skill of someone who has been training in secret. Kunon learns of this through a letter and is both proud and worried. He writes back telling her not to push herself too hard. He writes that he will write again and again. He asks her not to forget about him. "Not a day goes by when I do not think about you." The letter ends with those final words, "with eternal." The season closes with Kunon standing in the morning light at Durashik, greeted by classmates, challenged by Sandra for a rematch, recruited by Bale for magic tool development, and invited by Rays to help make more Shishilla pills. Cassis demands lunch. Hank brings bacon. Rhea is flying overhead. The school is alive with energy, rivalry, and possibility. Kunon hears all of it, feels all of it, and responds to all of it with the boundless enthusiasm that defines him. He is asked about going on a search for a shipwreck with one of the representatives. "A shipwreck? He would love to come along. Weigh anchor," he declares. "Set sail." I cannot suppress my curiosity. The unprecedented troublemaker has arrived, and Durashik will never be the same.